Kurt Vile, Watch My Moves, album review, let's chat about it. Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here to chat about this latest from Mr. Kurt Vile, Philly-based singer-songwriter. You may know him also as former member of the War on Drugs. But don't let that define the guy. I mean, he's built a pretty successful solo career lately. Even if, honestly, for a while when it came to his solo career, the early days, I wasn't always into what he was doing. I mean, I thought Constant Hitmaker certainly had its moments. It still has plenty of Kurt's live staples on there. I mean, Freak Train's on there. But at the time, I wasn't wild about the sort of lo-fi aesthetic that Kurt Vile was going with. I have a lot of the same feelings on his two follow-up albums, Childish Prodigy, as well as God Is Saying This to You. I just felt like Kurt had a really unique singer-songwriter voice, but he really wasn't putting his foot down and really, trying to make something different, which he honestly started doing around the time of Smoke Ring from My Halo. Kurt instantly really had a very fresh sound, and it really won my heart overnight. This was a very dreamy, multi-layered folk album with a lot of heart, but also had a lot of interesting influences like shoegaze. The production was really great too. This was a really good album. Oh, and he followed that up with one of my all-time favorite albums, Waking on a Pretty Daze. Now, around the time of Believe I'm Going Down, Kurt was still putting out a lot of really great music. I thought this album was a little bit less experimental, a little bit more straightforward, but he made the smart move of making it an album about him. It focused on his singing, his songwriting, which was still A+. The result is still absolutely fantastic. But the last time we heard from him with his Bottle It In album, I was stuck in a really hard place. While it had great deep cuts like Bass Ackwards and one of my all-time favorite Kurt tracks with Loading Zones, the album's ridiculously bloated. It is well over an hour, and it didn't need to be. It was really unlike him, and it really threw me off, which led to these new singles here, which honestly took a while to grow on me. They were much more long form. They seemed him going back to that sort of shoegazy, hazy folk rock sound, which I usually like. Let's chat about this thing. This album starts off with Going on a Plane Today, and honestly, I really like it. I thought I wasn't going to, due to some of the initial instrumental that I heard. I thought I wasn't going to be into what he was doing here, but it's got a really quaint, old-school singer-songwriter feel to it, almost out of the book of like a Harry Nilsson. But it does what Kurt does best, offers up quirky observations, and just a ton of heart. He sounds really okay in life right now, and that makes me happy. This intro makes me happy. Then we have Flyin' Like a Fast Train. Love this one too. This is much more Kurt's speed. It's a very hazy, almost psychedelic sort of folk rock track with some elements of shoegaze and some very slacker vibes. All of which he pulls off so lovingly. I mean, this is just me, but I kind of love just hearing a spaced out Kurt Vile just chatting about life for a couple of minutes. It's something he's done for a while very well, and this is no different. As a matter of fact, the first leg of this album, the first half of it, is some of Kurt's best material since, Waking on a Pretty Daze era. Surprisingly so. As a matter of fact, I really love Palace of OKV in reverse as well. This is one of the best deep cuts here, just a really cool sound. This instrumental is super hazy, super hard to place. It's a real throwback for him once again. It's practically psychedelic, which is taken to the next level when he brings in a lot of the surreal imagery of this track. It's done really well, such as one of the lead singles, like Exploding Stones. This might be the best track here. I think it is. This is a really fantastic Kurt Vile track. It covers all its bases in a great way. We get that laid-back, sort of slacker groove here, as well as some really great lyrics once again. Not only that, we get Kurt Vile's very hazy yet very passionate delivery. I don't mind that this track goes well over 7 minutes. I think it's a real jam. Mount Airy Hill, Wait Gone, on the other hand, is just another very spacey, very spacious folk rock jam. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, it is a little by the books, but once again, I don't think that's bad. I mean, a lot of this album is Kurt, very openly paying homage to a lot of his influences, and that's always nice. And Hey Like a Child is the first single that I really got into here. I love Kurt's low-key delivery. I love the twangy folk rock riff. I mean, it might be the nicer weather approaching, but all I want to do right now is play this track again, sit outside, get some sun, grab a beer, and just enjoy life. I love the extended acoustic jam too, but I do have to point out this album's length. It's an hour and 16 minutes, but For the most part, Kurt does a really great job pacing it. It makes it pretty likable. Jesus on the Wire, too, is really great. It's a little bit more of a whimsical folk jam, which I didn't expect, but you know what you're getting here, and Kurt's very surreal lyrics, once again, make things a big plus. As a matter of fact, a lot of this album, especially the first half, reminded me of just what I loved about Kurt's music to begin with, which, honestly, after his last album, I kind of lost sight of. And if you're looking for a cool deep cut, look no further than For Show. This is a scuzzy, fuzzy, slacker rocker with some serious grooves. And you know, at first, I thought I wasn't going to like this track, but I like the bluesier, grittier approach to this one. It's a little rough around the edges, too. By the end of it, I would argue it's probably the most true to form Kurt Vile track here. A lot of the album up to this point has been some really nice surprises, but man, God, like, I can't stress this enough. It falls off really hard in the second half, almost to the point where, like, it ruins a lot of this album for me. It really starts around the time of Cool Water. This is just a very bland, by-the-books folk track that just doesn't move me. A lot of this album's pluses have been just how breezy and easy to take in it is. This is a little too breezy. All of a sudden, Kurt doesn't sound moody and half-stoned, he just sounds bored. And this ho-hum, dime-a-dozen melody just seems like a ripoff. Chazzy Don't Mind continues this album's downfall. I mean, everything that had Kurt's personality to it seems to be completely disintegrated. These vocals are soulless, this track is boring. And I really didn't need the toss-away interlude of Shiny Things either. We also have the longest track here, Wages of Sin. This is rough. This is the nightmare version of what we got in the first half. It's too hazy, it's too muffled, it's too stoned. It's delirious. And listen, this is a long album. It's an hour and 16 minutes. It's not like Kurt was really clamoring for a few more minutes of material here. This should have been left off. And I don't know how we've gotten to Kurt Runner. We're literally well over an hour into this album, and Kurt saw fit to give us 3 minutes of studio fuckery. It's not like this album needed more material, and this is genuinely really upsetting. Kurt could have easily put out his best album since Waking on a Pretty Daze here, but that material is just so bloated and way too far gone, and it really brings down the album. I mean, there are a couple of last-minute surprises. I thought Say the Word was really good. It's an upbeat folk rocker with some woozy synths. It's full of heart. It's got a big catchy hook. And no, it may not be Kurt's best lyrical performance here. I don't think it is. But I like it, especially as far as like an extended jam goes. It's so sunny and just so full of life. And Stuffed Leopard is a really nice finale too. It's a stripped-down folk ballad that's very light on the ears and very whimsical, but it's done very tastefully. We get a sea of very visual lyrics once again, and it's just very easy to kind of drift off into. It does a nice job of really reminding you of what Kurt Vile can do without being overly flashy or fancy. It's just nice. It leaves me with actually a pretty good taste in my mouth, but this album is tough. The reality is, so much of the material here is some of Kurt's best in a long time. So much so that a lot of this album just leaves me with a good taste in my mouth. It reminds me of what I loved about his music so many years ago. The problem is, A, the length. Nobody wanted an hour and 16 minutes of this. And B, when this album is bad, it gets downright unlistenable very quickly. It's tough. I wish I could have given this something higher, but there's some material on here I don't have any excuse for, and I don't think Kurt does either. I'm feeling a decent 7 on this album, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. Until next time, have a great day, guys.